So today we're gonna do a little loose piece. I'm gonna be using some watercolor pencils by Derwent. This is the Intense. And this color is Carmine Pink 0520. And we're just gonna start making some looseness here. Leaving some white space. And just get it pretty moist. Leaving your brush pretty loose. And we're just gonna get the base color in here. Sorry about all the car sounds, pretty distracting, I know, but it's the location I have. I'm not gonna complain. And this is the type of project you're gonna need a paper towel at hand. Okay, let's try to get this little pigment out of here. Okay, so now we're going to add just some warmth into our flower. This color here is a red oxide color. And this takes a lot of practice to conquer that loose feeling. It's more of a visual thing. You definitely need to visualize the flower in your head as you create it. Okay. So we're gonna just bring in some depth in there, some little places, some contrast. Okay. And now I'm just gonna squeeze some water out of my brush and slowly start to pick up some of that pigment. As we actually add in more pigment. So I'm gonna bring in the Indian ink 2020 here. And you want to do this ever so slightly. You don't want to go crazy with your dark colors. And you can choose just any color you like. And just play around with your style. You know, my style is different than your style. So you can create your loose effect with just any object. And you want to create that. You want to look at your composition. You want to see what is needed, what is not needed, what you need to lift. Okay, so now we're going to mix up quite a few colors, or maybe just two. We'll see. So I have my little mixer here. And when you pull color from these watercolor pencils, you have to be careful because they do splatter. This is the light olive. I love anything with an olive base to it. And then I'm gonna add I don't like the black itself, the Indian color again with that olive, okay? And I'm gonna have something like this. And I'm gonna go ahead and just start with a very loose stem, and then we're going to go back and keep filling up your flower. Okay. Get a little bit of the Indian ink in there and add it in. And when I take my time and I go slower on these compositions, I actually can form the object that I want to create a little bit better as far as emotion goes. Okay. Here, we're going to bleed in. And here's when you're going to start loosening up your brush and your wrist. Let's add a little bit more of that olive green. And we're going to pick up some little vines in here and here. Okay. I'm going to add some leaves. Okay. So I am really into painting moody things, especially botanicals. And in these type of flowers, you want a lot of looseness and depth. I'm gonna make this one a little bit thicker. Okay. There we go. Let's add some green to some areas. So you can continue with that contrast. Another leaf here. Going back and forth with your olive green and Indian ink. Continuing to add some depth. You want a lot of shadows in there. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and do our bold, big leaf or leaves. Definitely going to have to do some splatter. So here you want to take your time picking up your brush, giving it some texture movements. Okay. I like how that looks there. I like the highlight of it there. I'm just gonna bring a little shadow in there. want some more green. Okay. Do a little bit of blending. Don't go crazy on the blending. You want the majority of those brush strokes in there. Let's get this one. This is a synthetic brush, so this helps me kind of pick up some of those highlights where I need to place them. And we're gonna add, let's put some more green on my palette over here, and some of that Indian ink, and we're gonna do some textured leaves going different directions. All right. Let's get this flower wet again in different sections, starting to add more dimension. And this is where you just want to tap in some stronger colors here and there while it's wet. And this is when I get a little more focus and Can't really talk because I just really need to see where this is going. Add a little tiny bit of black on there. Just a tiny bit of black. Some shadows in here. Okay. And I'm literally just grabbing a tiny bit on the very tip of my brush, basically by a little hair, just adding in that pigment. There, I added a little bit too much, so I'm gonna go back and take some off, but not completely. Okay. Like so. Let's add a little bit of brightness. Start adding some yellow. This one is Sicilian yellow. And that's where some brightness comes to play. A bit of sunlight shining down on it. Okay, I'm gonna break up some of those pieces. Basically softening it up a little bit. We're gonna add a little bit of shadow afterwards. Okay. I'm gonna probably add a little bit of red. Or cherry. This one's called cherry. And some little sections to make it pop. Just be very careful. You don't want to overdo it here. Okay. I also feel like adding a little bit of that pop of Sicilian yellow onto my leaves. And you're just kind of tapping it in there. And just be very loose with your piece. Play with it. Worst thing that can happen is for you to just start over, and that's how you learn. You know? How many study pieces I've done. I use those scrap pieces, turn it around, or just kept playing with it. And I'm gonna add now a lot more shadow. With the sepia ink. This is not, I actually thought that was the Indian ink, but this is more of a sepia now. I had this one on hand, I grabbed it, and I actually like what it's doing, so. You don't want to add it in a lot right away. You want to add it little by little just to see how it looks with everything else. Add it into your little branches. A little bit of dry brushing in there. Okay. And I just feel like I'm gonna add it into my rose as well. Just wetting the tip. I mean, just adding pigment on the tip. And bring it up a little bit. Making sure you have no harsh edges. And all I'm doing is literally tapping it. And then I feel like that red has kind of disappeared, so I'm just gonna tap it in there. I feel like adding a little bit of wet drops on my every artist's nightmare right here. When you have a hair. Okay. Obviously I could take it off. This is not acrylic, so there you go. Oh, almost. There, got it. Okay. And now we're gonna go in with some shadowing. And I'm gonna wet this area first. Grab a little bit. Of the sepia ink. And just tap everywhere. Grabbing that ink and dipping it into my water to make sure I'm gonna be able to distribute that shadow everywhere. And let's just put that ink in my little mixer. mixing jar so I can keep grabbing it. And I'm only using a little bit. And you can always go in there and break it up with your rag. And you keep adding your layers as you go. Now is when you kind of mix it up a little bit. You're working on wet on wet, so it's quite forgiving on where you can blend and take that pigment. And what you're doing now is just kind of tapping that color. Excuse me, tapping that color in there. And now we're going to kind of give a little bit of those splatter effects. And you can even kind of splatter them like this. Okay. Some here. And some here. Okay. Let's just put some more here. There. All right. And now we're going to add some finishing touches. On some little areas here. Just to bring a little bit more of that dimension. I'm getting some of that carmine pink. And we're going to fatten up this flower just a tiny bit. And you can use any brush for this. I like using more of these type of mop brushes or ink brushes. Kind of help you out a little bit. And then I just used the very tip of it to continue that looseness all around. All right. I think I'm gonna splatter some of this carmine pink here. Just get the tip pretty wet. And then just do a little bit of those drops in there as well. Okay. Maybe some of that yellow too. Sometimes it just doesn't want to come out. Just a little bit. Give some little touches. Okay. Last but not least, we are going to sign it into the branch. And there's your piece. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you guys want me to do a little bit more of these type of tutorials. And there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.